So this is a reason why we really think that social media and social network has an incredible relevance to the Italian tourism industry overall. And we'll talk now a little bit about how you can tap into this phenomenon and all the content out there to turn it into a sales and marketing asset for you. So before we get to how you can use social media to propel your business forward, let's really talk about what makes social media social. What is it about social media that makes it so popular and so viral and so, user important? The clue to this may lie in the top 10 social media stories that have occurred in the last 12 months or so, starting with the election of Obama, through the bombing of the Taj Hotel in Mumbai, all the way through to the most recent activity, in the States that's around this film called Paranormal Activity. One of the things that you see in these top 10 social media stories really has to do with a few different factors. One, from the Obama standpoint, it has to do with a cause, a hope, something about empowering of the digital generation. In terms of the bombing in Mumbai and also in Jakarta with the Marriott Hotel, it really has to do with real-time news. Social media has an incredible effect in terms of the ability to report the news in real time and get that information out to a large number of people in a very, very fast manner. When you look at things like Susan Boyle, who was on Britain's Got Talent, Michael Jackson, the celebrity blogger Perez Hilton, it really has a lot to do with the personality that's associated with the main character or the actor that is in the story, and how much empathy or how much are you able to relate to the experiences that they're going through. So in a way, the karma of social media, or the process from which social media becomes viral, is really broken down in the following 4 steps. The first step is somebody says something, and that something could be hello to the world, or I need some help. Please help me with something. Then the recipient of that specific social media message or call out determines, is this something that is noteworthy? Do I really think that this is something unusual? And if it is, the next step, does it move me in a fun way? And does it move me enough for me then to take an action on it? Okay, so let me illustrate via some example here. I had gelatos yesterday. So I could have tweeted it to say, I had the most delicious gelato by the Piazza Pitti, yesterday afternoon. Probably most of you in this room would not care. My friends would care, but you probably wouldn't care because gelatos to you are, probably something that's very simple and normal. So in that standpoint, the social message that I have broadcasted out is really not noteworthy, and it will effectively stay very much contained within my social network and my social circle, people who care about me, right? But if I basically say, I had gelato and I found a bug inside the gelato, now it becomes a little bit more noteworthy. Some of you may care about it. How could that be? Is it a real bug? And so on and so forth. Now, what if basically I then move forward and say, but the proceeds, the gelato that I paid, went towards the restoration of some museum that's across the street? Now, it may potentially move you into saying, okay, this specific piece of news is noteworthy enough, and because it does a greater good, I might pass it along to somebody else, and therefore the distribution and the viral effect works. You should think about this in the context of your business. What are you communicating about your business? Is it noteworthy? Do people care about it? And do people care about it enough to tell other people about it so that the cycle repeats with more and more messengers to make your message viral? This is the karma of social media. The reason we use the word karma is because it's really about what you do for your customers. If you do great things for your customers, they will repay you by telling other people what are the really great things that you did about them, that you did for them. If you did something terrible for your customers, they're going to then tell other people that you did something really bad to them, and that karma will repeat to the point where you could potentially have no business left. So this is why we call this the karma of social media, but just take into account that the virality of it spreads very, very quickly and to a large base of people because there is permanence to the information and to the message that is being transmitted. So the circle in the middle of this cycle here really is what drives social media, and it's a word called empathy. Empathy is a human emotion. It's something that makes all of us human. It's our ability to be able to relate to each other based on a certain condition that we believe that they're having, based on a certain feeling, based on a certain situation, based on a certain affinity to what they are going through. Empathy is what fuels social media. And this is very interesting because in the 1940s, the Italian went through a neo-realistic era whereby it was really all about showing Italy the way it was after the war. And the reason that to this day, those films like The Bicycle Thief, La Strada, La Dolce Vita are still all considered to be really, really classic films is because they show some human universality in terms of the human condition that anybody in any generation can relate to that. Think about social media then as the current form of the expression of the human condition, both positive and negative. And the audience that the social media content attracts is effectively the followers of the empathetic people that are able to relate to what is being said within those content. So, what is your brand karma? This is what my company does. And for the next few minutes or so, we're going to talk a little bit about how do you take all the content that's there and convert it into something that you understand, into something that you're able to leverage, and into something that you're hopefully able to use to improve your profitability. But we must first start by understanding who are the people that are using social media, that are interfacing with social media, and what their expectations are in terms of the way a brand should be engaging with them. So here I've just very roughly broken out the class of customers out there by decades in terms of where they're born. So they're the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and the 60 plus. And what you'll see here is not only the years they were born, but the defining technology in each of these age categories. There is, starting with the people in the 60s, the black and white television, which gave them a view of the world that was very dynamic. And then there was the color television for the 50s. The 40s would be the MS-DOS, Windows, Command Prompt, basically, the arrival of the personal computer. The 30s would be the mouse in their hands, graphical user interface that basically made personal computing much, much easier. And then, obviously, the 20s grew up with the internet connected to their household and their ability to effectively be able to cut down the time and distance constraint that normally would have isolated younger people because they're unable to travel. It gave them exposure to the world. But as a result of this here, the expectation in terms of how brands should be engaging with each of these segments becomes different. For the 20-somethings, the brand that they choose to use becomes a part of their overall identification. I pick a specific designer because that designer's aesthetics appeals to my sensibility. I use a specific bag. I drive a specific car. I stay in a specific hotel because it's a reflection of who I am and what I care about.